Well, thank you very much, Jose, for inviting me to chat with you. I'm Will Happer. I'm a physicist, taught for many years at Princeton and before that at Columbia. I've also spent some time in Washington, so I've had a varied career. What I want to say now is just a few words about carbon dioxide, which is at the center of many really stupid policies that are being espoused by governments around the world, especially in the West and Europe and in the United States. You know, carbon dioxide is not a pollutant at all. It's actually a benefit, and it's really the stuff of life. You know, we wouldn't exist without carbon dioxide. Um, by the standards of geological history, carbon dioxide levels now are much lower than they ought to be, and plants are struggling actually to grow. They grow much better if you double or triple the amount of CO2 in the air. And greenhouse operators, commercial operators, routinely double or triple the amount of CO2 in the greenhouse because even though you have to pay for the CO2, it's not cheap. You get such better products from your plants, better flowers, better fruits, that it's worth the extra expense from the CO2. And you can see that happening on a large scale from satellites. If you look down at the Earth, it's clear the Earth is getting slowly greener over the past 50 years. And if you analyze that, it's not because there's more rainfall or more fertilizer, it's because there's more CO2. So there's nothing but good news from increasing levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. Now, CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and my cat has just walked across the light. And it does affect the climate, but not very much. If you were to double CO2 levels, and that would take a long time, you know, over a century at the rates of increase that we're seeing today, you would only decrease the radiation to space, which is controlled by CO2, by 1%. So this 100% increase in CO2, which will be hard to attain, only makes a 1% difference in the cooling radiation to space. And that can easily be made up by a very small warming of the Earth. The Earth's surface would have to warm by about 1 degree centigrade. The exact number, nobody really knows for sure. It depends on various feedbacks. But I would be very surprised, and most other knowledgeable people very surprised if it exceeds about 1 degree centigrade. The most generous thing I can say about people who go around talking about, you know, carbon pollution and carbon footprint and this sort of thing is that they have a very poor education in science. If they knew more about science, and they wouldn't say that. And this, unfortunately, includes a lot of scientists, you know, who like to pontificate on things that they don't really understand. It's a disease that goes with being in academia. But, you know, we're made of carbon. Human beings are little bag. I mean, we're bags of protein and fat and other materials that are all based on carbon. You know, the amino acids that are the building stones of our proteins have a carbon atom in the center and lots of carbons surrounding them in the other parts of the molecule. The sugars and the fats that provide energy for us are all based on carbon. And so we use a lot of carbon, and we breathe out large amounts of carbon every breath. In fact, the average human breathes out about 2 pounds of carbon dioxide per day. So I want you to think about this. You know, we're basically carbon, living creatures, all living creatures. And we produce a lot of carbon dioxide simply by living. 2 pounds a day per human. There are 8 billion humans. That's quite a lot of carbon, isn't it? Yeah, per day. And if you're going to get rid of carbon pollution, does that mean that we have to get rid of humans? This is not a rhetorical question. It's something worth serious consideration, because some of the most rabid proponents of fighting climate change also think you need to get rid of most humans. I don't agree with that. And you ought to think about it too, because it could affect you in the future. So thank you very much. I wish you all well at this meeting. It's an important meeting, so learn as much as you can.
Is taking this back a layer, is this idea of, well, I don't necessarily know if this is true or right, but it should be investigated. And I think that approach is something you've been trying to get into the science of climate for, I think, the last 20 years, because we see scientists take an axiomatic approach. Okay, climate change is real. Now, how severe is it? As opposed to, well, wait a minute, to what extent does man induce or influence climate change, and how catastrophic is it really?
Mm-hmm. Well, look, I mean, everyone knows that the climate always changes. The geological record makes that clear, and even the historical record. We know very well that there was massive climate change at the end of the Roman Empire. It was one of the contributors. It was one of the things that caused the mass migrations that were such a problem for the Roman Empire. And there have been many others like that. So definitely climate changes. I don't see evidence that humans have had very much to do with it, or will have very much to do with it in the future. I already mentioned that the main greenhouse gas that we're concerned about, carbon dioxide, is heavily saturated. So doubling CO2 only makes about a 1% change in radiative forcing, use a technical term. So, sorry, I have an annoying cat here that I should have locked the door. But the idea that we have to spend trillions of dollars, decarbonizing the earth, when carbon dioxide is definitely good for the earth, good for life on earth, it's just insane. It's like, burning witches to stop climate change, and which we used to do, by the way. And when we did that, the leadership was always the most educated people. In the Salem witch trials, all the judges had Harvard degrees, and the common people were a little less certain that the witches had anything to do with the bad climate, but there was no doubt in the minds of the Harvard judges that they did.